going back into our conversation, Tsepo, I think the stats are showing that a lot more young people are getting onto this whole Stokvel thing.
I think what I saw was the ability to take a market that everyone called informal, not necessarily to make it formal. I think the last thing that you want to do is take a market that's already running, that's inherited in our history as people,
correct,
and try to formalize it, because formalizing is defined from a European standard most of the time. So I always say there's a difference between financial inclusion and financial expansion, and that's where I saw it. Inclusion is taking something that's already defined in a box and then trying to include people in that defined box, which is a problem basically. But when we say financial expansion is when you take that box and you unpack it and then everyone gets in based on new definitions. So when I looked at this industry 8 years ago, I said, how do we expand it? How do we make more? How do we move this 50 billion rand industry, if not the number one, the second industry that's informal after the tech industry, and actually, take it to the next level, digitize it, connect it to the economy, make it more what it needs to be, instead of it being on the sideline. And I think I saw early that, in fact, that because I want to be part of a Stokvel,
sure,
and I was less than 35 at that time. I'm not trying to give away my age.
At that time, 2 years ago.
At that time, I was less than 35.
Yeah.
That definitely meant that if I'm interested as a young person, you definitely know that other young people are interested in it. The question is, how do we make it sexy and attractive?
Correct.
Yeah, I like what he's saying. And for me, when you say you must make it attractive, there's this stigma that Stokvels are for old people.
Correct.
The uniform gang, they meet with their uniform and they take a group picture and they will share money and everybody will hide their money under the bed or whatnot. So we need to. So when you talk about the attractiveness of the word Stokvel itself, it needs to be modernized. We need to show that you can actually have a Stokvel online.
Exactly.
You could have, cool groups of Stokvels. I mean, I'm involved in a property Stokvel with a bunch of guys and we contribute a certain amount every month. Yeah. And with that, we obviously go out there and look for opportunities. And we make it attractive, for ourselves. It's
but do you call it Stokvel still?
We do. Okay. We call it landlord Stokvel.
I thought some young people hate to call it Stokvel.
Well, investor club.
Investor club.
Dude, come on. It's like you're saying crowdfunding,
Yeah, exactly.
A good friend of mine said crowdfunding is like Stokvel that went to Harvard.
Exactly. So true.
There's levels to this.
So true.
Level to this.
So true. Yeah. Now the question is, how do we then get more young people on this thing here? I feel like, do you feel there already is a lot of young people on that, or it's still perceived as this oldish thing that young people disconnect from?
I think perception is based on what media puts out right there. So if you look at any media and they say they're going to interview Stokvels, you'll get to see old people because usually it's old footage.
Yeah.
So media hasn't gone out and gotten new footage. It's something that we try our best to help media to get.
Correct.
So usually when media looks at Stokvels, it's definitely
traditional.
It's traditional. They see old people. If you look at all the stock images of when they print out something, it's always old people.
Correct.
But as soon as you bring that youngsters in, that youthness in, I think that's when media catches up. So I think more media needs to go out and shoot new footage.
So you feel there's a lot of young people?
There's a lot. I mean, from an LSM perspective, if we just start, because we're not starting with age, LSM, whether you're LSM 1 or LSM 8 or 9, people do Stokvels.
Absolutely.
My good friend here, TT, I'm not sure what LSM is on, but
LSM 10, 20.
Perception is reality.
Exactly.
So you do Stokvels. Then you take it from an age perspective. If you look at from our data, average age is about 36, 34. So that already tells you that it's within that young group already. Yes, the oldest person on our platform is about 77 years old, but majority of people on our platform are younger. So I think by making it more sexy, more appealing, and maybe calling it differently, whether you want to call it investment club or Shaita Fuller Club, whatever you want to call it, but you're making sure that it's got attractive returns, attractive lifestyle changing, like travel Stokvel, people are going to Dubai with it.
Correct.
So it's about putting those elements in, and then you'll see more. The young people are already there, but you'll see it more coming out more often in media perspective.
So let me ask you this, Tsepo. Do you think we should rephrase the name Stokvel? Do you think the name Stokvel is not relevant anymore to the younger generation, or do you think we need to go through a rebranding exercise of the name, the name itself? Because every time I hear Stokvel, it reminds me of that, right? But the minute you say travel Stokvel.
Then it changes.
Cool.
Exactly.
Property Stokvel.
That's what I feel.
Clothing Stokvel.
That's what I feel.
So maybe it's about enhancing on the word itself and creating the cool around it.
Yeah. Call it Stokfella.
Is this man here to market his business?
This guy, super good marketer. But tell me, when you started, how complex was it for you to look at your own background and try? Because you studied engineering, so clearly your brain was like, look, with the education I have, I can modernize what my fathers and my grandfathers used to do. But how easy was it for you to actually get the adoption of your idea once you kind of started putting it in people's eye and say, look, you already have a Stokvel, but here's a platform that can help you?
Yeah, look, I mean, the fact that you're mentioning that master's in engineering, the master's in finance as well. So I thought I was a really smart guy.
And then what happens? You woke up from the dream.
Yeah, I woke up from the dream, man.
Your degree means nothing. You have to sell the platform
You know, when you have people like yourself still asking you, how much do I owe? How much? You're like, but guys, I'm giving you an Excel sheet. Exactly. Can't you read an Excel sheet? Then you get to realize that financial literacy, it's actually across all board, irrespective of how smart you are, is actually a challenge. I mean, I've got engineering friends that don't know how to calculate a home loan.
Correct.
So you sit back and you're like, okay, we have a problem. It's not necessarily about you finishing a very smart degree. It's about you understand the basic about finance.
Correct.
Right?
That's
true. So once I got to understand that, I have to take it back to basics. I just looked at it from that point of view. Observing people, observing old, young people, and you just get to realize that, look, it doesn't matter what age bracket you're in. Fundamentals still needs to be built in. Fundamentals of what is interest, how much did I contribute? If I exit now, what's the penalty? How to calculate all of that? But try to simplify it as best as possible. You know, I've got good friends of mine that look at it from a point of, it's a cow. If I invest in the cow and it deals, because those are the old ways of understanding things, you know? So what we do at Stokvel is not try to change you, it's try to enable you to understand what you already know better. And then our job is then take that to connect it to the more formal world as we speak it. So the formal world understands ROI, understands IRR, understands all these fancy terms.
Correct.
So it's not your job to worry about it. It's our job to worry about it.
Make it simple for me,
Make it simple. Yes, make it simple. As long as you get your money back. That's the trick around with all
But
these
wasn't
things.
that still difficult for a market that has seen it as very traditionalist?
It is still
to kind of go like, oh, there's an app for it. Oh my God, can I trust this thing?
Yeah, look, I mean, trust is bought over time. The fact that we've been here for plus 8 years, that's the first point of departure. So yes, the first year is like, hey, can I trust this thing? Are you registered? And we had to get registered. You know, who's Tepo? Before you even go far.
Who's Tepo's uncle?
Who's Tepo's uncle?
Is it connected with government? Or
you know? I had to learn to let go of my banking way, stop wearing a tie and a suit, because as soon as and look cool. As soon as you start doing that, people say, hey, this guy, he's running away with our money. Is it white capital again? You know, so there's a lot of things I needed to unlearn and redesign. So is it a walk in the park the first time? Particularly, let's say we target an age group of about 50 years old? No. Yeah, look, I think the point of starting is always questionable. Maybe let me rephrase the question. Maybe let me ask my brother TT. Is that I'm sure you at home there was always a Stokvel.
Yeah,
correct.
Right. So when you started a Stokvel, what was the first thing did you think about?
So I was exposed to the Stokvel concept through my dad. So him and his friends used to have the Stokvel. There were 10 of them, and their concept was really about visiting each other once a month.
Yeah.
So
7 colors.
They'll start in Feb all the way until November.
Yes.
Because December and January, like everyone is on holiday. So that's why they limited it to 10. So we can get to rotate and come to you. So what I saw out of that is a social cohesion part of it, where they actually get to catch up as guys and about the families and whatnot. And after that, they get to the business of the day, which is about the money. We've got so much to save. And that's how we actually got to travel as families, because they used to save up.
Oh, that's impressive.
So they used to save. So we knew that twice a year we would have a winter and a summer trip.
Oh wow! That's impressive.
And for me, that's how I was exposed to the world of Stokvel.
Yeah. Indeed. So the same reference point. When you start a Stokvel, arguably start from the same reference points. People that I know, people I'm close with, people that share the same common goal with me. Travel, grocery, and grocery Stokvel, they're still okay, because 7 colors in December is better than no colors, right?
Correct.
So travel or Bitcoin, whatever it is, it's easier when you start
with Bitcoin, the new version for the Model C kid.
It's a new version, Baba.
It's very controversial.
Very controversial.
Model C kid, that's for you.
So that's your reference point of starting. I think that's the first point of starting, But I think the reason why I also want to mention this, the first point of starting, is we're so interested about starting something new instead of catching the baton from our fathers.
Exactly.
Your father already had a Stokvel.
So
already had saved up a certain amount of money. So instead of starting from zero, why don't you go into your father's Stokvel and say, hey, I think we should do it a bit differently. Who else would they trust besides you? And then you sort of introduce that flavor a bit, So get them to save out of the 70,000 rand that they saved, that they put, get them to take 20,000 rand. So start there with your own home Stokvel.
Correct.
But let's assume you didn't have one. Let's assume that you said, look, I'm interested in joining one out there. I don't know where to go. So I'm going to punt myself. Let's come on Stokvel. We've got 3,000 groups for you.
It's actually something that I actually wanted to touch on as well. So assuming that folks don't know where to go. They're loners and they're staying in their own homes and they're kind of struggling to talk to people. Introvert kind of guy. They don't know how to find people. So they can go onto your platform and find opportunities.
So I mean, we have multiple great Stokvels on our platform that have done crazy things on our platform. So one thing that we started doing this year, we started actually launching what we call vetted self-regulated Stokvels that are powered by Stokvel, so that you can partake and be part of. One, that it's vetted. Two, that we are making sure that it does what it's supposed to do, so that you can trust. And why we say trust us? One, yes, plus 8 years in the game, but two is we're an FSP accredited company. We're an NCR accredited company, so we have to follow the law. We have to audit the Stokvel. We have to audit ourselves. So there's things that we need to do to make sure that your money is safe as well. And wherever we take in the investment to, you know that we've double checked ourselves. Not to say anything, there's no risk. Everything there's risk, but at least you know that you've ticked certain boxes. It's not just a normal WhatsApp Stokvel.
But what if I'm not joining your platform and I'm just trying to get out there and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I want to start one. What are the things that I have to look out to usually? Which I think you have solved with your platform. But assuming that someone doesn't know about your platform.
So I think first of all, the things you look out for ultimately is if it's too good to be true, then it's probably too good to be true. So anyone giving you 100% return in 2 days or 3 days, run the opposite direction.
But you know what I wanted to find out from you, Tsapo? If I am young and my career is on the rise, I'm making some good money, and I've got a little bit of allowance in my budget, and I'm hearing about all these Stokvels. There's a Stokvel conference coming up on the 17th and 18th of April. How do I attract that young man who's got disposable income and just wants to come and learn about the different options that are out there?
So I think first of all, the fact that you have a Stokvel conference tells you that you've elevated the game from just being a typical under the tree to being something that's something where, if I'm not mistaken, also the conference is in a very lavish place in Melrose.
Definitely is. So trying to push opulence.
We gotta make it premium, right?
So definitely Melrose. If you've never been to Melrose, hey, here's your opportunity.
Absolutely.
But I think the most importantly is what you'll find at that conference is people who are knowledgeable. People who have been around in the game that could tell you more about it, especially if you say, I want to start a property Stokvel. My brother TT will be there to say, look, these are the elements that you need to look out for from a property Stokvel. How do you make sure members don't exit? If a member does not pay towards that property, how do you know how do you do penalties? So there's elements that you're going to get from professionals, people who've done it for multiple years that will help you. Plus you'll get some financial institution that will maybe come and back you. Let's say you're short of 20,000 and now the Stokvel says we want to buy a property, and then the institution might just back you with a 20,000 rand loan. So there's multiple opportunities that I'm understanding from the conference that should attract you as a young person, that you should love and say, look, I want to come see more.
Lovely. And for me, the narrative there should be, investing starts with yourself.
Correct.
If you're going to invest in yourself and pay whatever the fee is, it's not about how much it is, but how much you can get out of it as well.
Definitely.
So true. But do you think from a financial literacy perspective, so it's well and done that we really want to grow and all that, but assuming that the Stokvel now is doing quite well, assuming that you come to the SLC conference and you meet up with 20 other folks that believe that, hey, we want to buy a property and TT has got a lot of fancy properties and we can all hoy in 200,000 rand each and buy a nice, beautiful property. But from a financial management perspective, they always lack some sort of insight into the money management matter or even debt management, because at the end of the day, you might have half of the money and TT, has a beautiful offer from a bank partner that says, yeah, we can still pre-finance you. But halfway through that contribution, you go busted because you just didn't take the right decisions. Is there anything we can do for young people to get more educated about taking the best decisions for their Stokvels?
Yeah, look,
because I feel like everybody can start something, especially
it's a maintenance part.
It's a maintenance part. How do you keep it up, and how do you manage well your funds?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is something that we deal with quite every day at Stokvel, is seeing people starting their Stokvels and halfway through they drop off. Some people just lose their jobs, So the first thing that I ask you, if you're employed, do you have salary cover?
Good question. Very good.
Very how many people actually think about
very
that?
Good question.
Ask them when the retrenchment bug hits
bugs. So in case that you do lose your job, that cover comes in, and therefore you can still contribute towards your Stokvel.
Very, very.
So there are elements about yourself as an individual you still first need to ask. The other one that I always like to leave young people, particularly, especially those first time starters of a job, and again, especially if you come from the rural areas, I always ask you: are you the first generation, the first person to go and got a degree and now working? And if the answer is yes, then I tell you that actually you are an investment. So as an investment, you need to assure yourself life insurance, because if you pass away,
the buck stops with you.
That's amazing advice, guys.
We start all over from the top.
If I had I would have put it in on this thing. It's amazing, because we don't take that into consideration, right?
Yeah. So it really starts with you. You need to look at your life and ask yourself, if I were to disappear on this earth, what are the impacts? If I were to lose my income, what are the impacts? And start ensuring that there's insurance for this. I think we tend to look at insurance as a bad thing. Insurance is actually a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It can cover certain important elements of you just in case something goes wrong. But at the same time, a Stokvel is also an insurance itself, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So if you can start a Stokvel that says, if I lose a job, the Stokvel will contribute for me. Hey, you're on the right track as well. You insured yourself.
That's actually commendable, because I just think financial literacy is such a need in our country.
It's a serious need.
The concept of mathematics itself at a school level has always been intimidating for a lot of us. We've never made it cool as a subject to say, learn to enjoy numbers, because numbers matter in life. At the end of the day, numbers don't lie. Everything that we do in business revolves around numbers. We crunch numbers, balance sheet, cost reports.
Correct.
So if we brought cool to the concept of mathematics, I promise you now, we'll have a lot of our kids loving the concept of working out numbers.
And then, assuming now that we have, this young man and their friends, and, they've collected over, let's say, 500,000 rand together over 2 years, whatever. Where do they invest the money? Do they know it up front? Or it's like, let's put it together, and at some point we could maybe invest into XYZ.
Yeah.
Is that something you're seeing on your platform as well, or they already know the objective? It's very clear. We're going to do that.
Yeah, so I think you're splitting it between a new Stokvel and an existing Stokvel. So an existing Stokvel, they don't know. All right. And what I mean about that is that because they're coming from an age where they used to save for a stop nonsense, which we call a wall, a big wall, or increase the house. Or now on the kitchen now, or buy pots, the fancy pots, or Tupperware.
Yeah.
So once that is done, they get to a point where they don't know. So, but the new guys, sort of, especially the young new guys, they sort of have a good idea already to say, we are saving to buy equity. We are saving to buy property. So they already put a mandate in place, right? And then, but what they don't know is that it's those basic steps of how to get through those mandates. It's something that we get in the space and say, okay, now you have a mandate, now you have a goal. What are the steps to get there? Whether it's a constitution, which we give a standard template constitution on our platform, or whether you need to customize it, you would come to us. And then we'll assist you customizing it. Whether you say, I don't know how much to contribute. The property is 100,000, but we don't know how much to contribute. We assist you in terms of calculating that, taking fees into consideration. So we do the maths part a bit for most of these groups in order to make it easy for them to get there. But back to your question, in terms of contribution, so if you look at the Old Mutual statistics that go out there, average contribution is about 800, 900. On our platform is way higher. So we tend to have, and I think it's because we're a tech company as a point of departure. So a tech company, you get the early adopters. So we've been early adopted by a little bit more high LSM, a little bit younger LSM that have much more to contribute. People on our platform are managers, if not executives.
Exactly.
So we've been consumed by those. But lately we are making strive. Like I said, there's people are 77 years old. They are not working on our platform. We are starting to move and shift towards the mainstream market, as one would say. And that itself is a challenge on its own.
So you've captured the
cream.
The Model C.
The Model C.
So that means you guys have a very strong digital presence, because, that's where they're at.
So we have a very, very strong digital presence from